Okay, good morning and welcome to Guided Meditations and More. My name is Ade Richardson, and this page was originally started as a source for people to come to get support when the coronavirus, when we were hit with it here in New York. So I started the page back in March, and it was usually I would offer daily guided meditations. Now I've cut that down to because school started, so my schedule has gotten a little hectic. So now our guided meditations are Thursday at 7:30 a.m. Eastern Time and Sunday at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time. But obviously today we're not going to be able to do that. Today, also, what I've been offering, what we've been doing here is having video podcasts with various types of people from teachers, healers, professors, um, and on a variety of topics. And it's been a real joy for me, real a learning experience. And I hope that you feel the same. Hope you get something out of these video podcasts. Um, so today we are here with Suga Ray, and the topic is community service. Hey, Sugar Ray, thank you for joining us today.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for having me, brother. Appreciate you, man. Happy Sunday. Good morning. Great rising. Let's
Good
talk about
morning.
it.
Grand Rising to you. And let's see. If you have any comments or questions for Sugar Ray, please leave them in the comments section below the video, and I'll try to get them to him during the broadcast. Or you can send me a direct message as well if you're watching the recording of this interview, and I'll try to pass those along to him. Also, if you like the content that we have here on the page, if you follow or like the page, you'll get updates and notifications. So let's get right into the conversation. And we were talking. I was telling Sugar Ray about how this podcast started, and just generally what guided meditations and more is about. And he reminded me to really keep the meditation aspect of the page there, because that's an important piece to it. Actually, a very important piece to it. So, with that, I was wondering if maybe Sugar Ray could lead us in a short, like 1 minute. He kind of walked into this 1 minute guided meditation.
Of course. Of course. I mean, so community service, right? We speak about service in community, right? Like since young I've always been big on language arts in the art of communication. So we communicate through words here, through, the use of this language. Um And so community service, when I think about it, to me is service of self, right? Service to others is service to yourself. So what you do for others, you do for yourself. What you do for self, you do for others. And so if we truly want to, they said it in the movie Biggie, right? So how do we change the world? But by changing ourselves. And that we have to remember that that is the key. And so if we say that the world needs more love, then first give more love to self, and then so that you can share with others. If we say the world needs more peace, then we have to always individually be the mirror of that.
Yeah.
And so meditation is, as you I'm sure know, probably more than me, you've been meditating almost pretty much half my life. um is balance first. Balance
Yeah.
first, peace first, harmony within self first. So the love of community can only truly happen, and the true community service can only happen when self is good. And so yeah, meditation. Let's do it, man. Let's sit comfortably. Let's breathe. A bit. Let's move our bodies a bit. And even like meditation, people forget, or we think meditation is complex. And the most ancient definition of meditation is sitting with self. sitting with yourself, just being with yourself. So um, people ask me, how do we meditate? How do you meditate? It's like we all meditate naturally. We all the moment the when we are with ourselves and we are only breathing, that is meditation. It is not more complex than that. There are other forms you can focus meditation to manifest something. Healing meditations is, but the basic, which is the most important, transcendental, because through meditation and breathing and mantra, you were able to transcend this realm and go into the deeper realms of consciousness just through that alone.
Hmm.
By allowing the consciousness to naturally go deeper into itself. And so sit straight as possible. We breathe through the nose. Let's take a breath, take a moment and give thanks for this Sunday morning, for the sun that is shining, for the breath that we are breathing, the life that we are living, the sounds that we are hearing, the feelings that we are feeling. Let's just breathe on it. In through our nose, out through our nose. Take 3 more short breaths. And remembering the ancient wisdom that um, breath is life, the breath of life. And if breath is life, then through proper breathing, we attain proper living. Through breathing is how we live. Thinking is important, feeling is important, moving is important, but breathing is the most important. Because from breath, that's how everything became. In any world that we desire to manifest, any goal that we set out to achieve, any any objective, no matter how small, as small as going to the store, as small as making a breakfast, whatever it is, let us all do it from the place and out of proper breathing. Take another breath. And so many of us take breathing for granted, and it's just as simple as that, is and just through this simple 30 seconds, we've slowed down, we've calmed down. I'm more in harmony with where I am at this moment. So it's really simple. I think as humans we complicate things. And we got to get back to the simple basics. So thank you, brother Ade.
Thank you. That was beautiful. Yeah, that really set the tone and just being as you are and checking in with yourself and the breath and sometimes we can easily, especially as children, when we don't know how to be with big emotions, children tend to hold their breath
Mm,
and they tend to repress the emotion if they're getting the if they're feeling that their protectors or their parents are not not really open into their emotional expressions, then as a way to stay safe, we learn to hold our breaths.
yeah.
We go, and so that becomes a habit that I'm still working on, kind
All
of.
of us is
Yeah,
listen. Is the journey of self mastery, and the
yeah,
toughest journey that any of us will ever embark on is the journey to learn ourselves and to be the best version of ourselves. But before we go forward, breathing again, like staying here for a second, and I learned, and it's still a journey, right? Most of us are not taught how to breathe, right? We come and we just live our life. We're not really taught how to breathe, and so we mostly breathe from our chest. We breathe through our mouth. We breathe from our chest, and that still is breathing. However, we must on the process of how the energy flows in our own bodies, right? And
yeah.
so to breathe in slower through the nose from your abdomen. Fill your abdomen with air, with breath. Allow the breath to go as low as possible and then pull it up, literally. And that's why, with your eyes closed, if we can remember that we are in control of the energy within us, then we can bring the energy up, bring it, we send it to our brain, bring it down. So like, to breathe from your abdomen, not from your chest, is important. And please, like, if you're watching this, like, don't take my word for it. Don't just, oh, Sugar Ray said it, so no. First, right? Because most people say, well, go research it and read a book. And I'm gonna tell you that, because one thing that I'm big on is, I ask people a lot of questions. If there were no books, what would you know?
Yeah.
If you never read a book or heard anyone's voice, you never had a teacher, what would you know? And people get stumped, and I get it, but it's like, you know yourself, which is the
Yeah.
most important thing to know is you. So don't take my word for it. First, practice it. Like, analyze, like, the way you've been breathing, and has it been helpful, and analyze the times when you've taken those deep breaths, when you've been frustrated and whatever's been going on, and you felt better. And so, like, remember that through the deep breath, through the breath, is how we get to comfort, peace, and everything else that's beautiful and blissful. So thank
Yeah.
you again, brother.
Thank you. And I thought maybe we could begin this by, if you will, if you're okay with it, maybe sharing a little bit of your story, and we'll work up to the community service. How's that sound?
Yeah, man.
Okay.
Oh man. Story. We all have a story. And all of our stories are worthy of being told and being shared and being honored. And I'm grateful that um I have and I don't know how. I mean, I guess just naturally, innately, like, the love of storytelling is just in me. So I love telling stories, and I love sharing my story. And we all should love sharing our story. And I know that, I tell people, they say, well, nobody want to hear the story. And we come from families, and we come from communities where um we don't always feel welcome and appreciated for who we are. And as unfortunate as that may be and feel, that is part of the process. However, there is, your vibe attracts your tribe, we like to say. And so, as long as you continue to vibrate on a positive frequency, you will attract people who will want to hear your story, who will want to help you tell your story. So I'm grateful again for storytelling. But my story, man, is no different than, like, the story of us. I'm 36 now, so born in the 80s, 84, South Jamaica, Queens. 2 years old, we had a fire in the house. My mom jumped down a burning flight of stairs with me in her arms, me, one pamper, one bottle. And I had two older sisters, but they were at their grandmother's house at the time, different dads. So they were with their grandmother. And yeah, that's how we got to Queensbridge, right? And storytelling, right? Like, I love Queensbridge. Queensbridge, like, is the hood. And I've had some very tragic experiences, personally being shot, beat up by the police. A lot of friends get killed. I've seen friends get killed.
Wow.
A lot of pain, a lot of trauma, but a lot of greatness. Queensbridge is, some, we like to say, the place where stars are born. If you know hip hop, Nas, Roxanne Shante, Marley Marl, MC Shan, like, so many hip hop legends, so many basketball legends, Meta World Peace, Vern Fleming, who won the Olympics in '84, Julie Dash, a black filmmaker, like, so much greatness. Like, one of the first, if not the first, African Day Parade was actually in Queensbridge Park. And I know
Wow.
that because it was an interview that I watched with Nana Kimani Dinizulu, who was a world-renowned Akon chief, and he was a drummer, world-renowned drummer. He did an interview with Sister Nana Camille Yarborough from Harlem, and they spoke about, African traditions in America. And the first African parade, however 50 something years ago, was in Queensbridge Park. So being from Queensbridge is like, it made me who I am. And it's a big part of my story. In spite of the tragedy, in spite of the pain. But my dad passed when I was 11. Older sister passed when I was 14. Those are three of the most painful years of my life, right? Like, oh, because as my dad was my best friend. He was my hero. He was my king. You know, he was setting the example for manhood, right? For manhood, for fatherhood. But he was also, you know, no, I guess normally it's the other way around, where the mother is the person that you run to, and like your dad is like being a disciplinarian. My dad was the communicator. My dad was the let's sit down and talk about it. My mother was the let's get the belt. My dad was like, hold on, what happened? Let's talk about it. So my dad was he was my guy. Um, and now I realize, because although yes, I did things that may have, some people say, warranted a beating, right, or getting in trouble. It was always a reason, and my dad was that one to try to find the reason in it, so that way it wouldn't happen. Like, and again, I was 11 when he passed, so we didn't get to have these conversations, these deep conversations. But I think that like he may have been innately, because he was a pastor, he was a Christian reverend. But I think innately, like, he might have been into Buddhism, right?
Yeah.
Because his approach was always like, "Whoa, slow down. Let's talk about it. Let's find a solution." Like, it's some. So he wasn't, in the hood in Black America, we have this idea that punishment is the deterrent for crime, right? I'm gonna beat my children. I'm gonna hit my children so that they can learn how to behave, right? And my dad was like, "That's not gonna work." Like, and again, like, this is not his words, but this is just me now as an adult, and as I got older, realize how he treated me,
Yeah.
like how he raised me, and like understanding the processes now, remembering certain things that he said. Um, and so, like, painful years, man. I was in the streets. I think by 17, I had got arrested like 40 times, right? For small stuff, smoking weed outside, stealing pizza, stealing from the store,
Hmm.
you know, fighting, stuff like that. And although many people will say, we have this narrative like, oh, person made mistakes, I always followed my spirit. I was always in tune with doing what I wanted to do. Like, even the illegal criminal activity that I was engaged in, yes, I saw other people do it, but I was never peer pressure. Like, yo, come on, Ray, let's do this.
Yeah.
It was always me, like, seeing it and saying, okay, we can get money like that. I was the ringleader, like, let's go get money, you know. And even more honestly and transparently, a couple years ago, I was coming out the train station in Queensbridge with my niece, and I saw a woman who I once sold drugs to, and she yelled my name out, and I stopped, and my niece was like, "Who is that crazy lady?" And I was like, "Yo, that's my homegirl." And and she said something that it stuck with me, and I've been meditating on it since. And this is maybe like 5, 6 years ago.
Hmm.
I've been meditating on it since. And so she said, "Ray, I remember coming to see you to get drugs one day, and I thought I was gonna spend 5 minutes with you, but we ended up spending 2 hours. You asked about my family. You ended up giving me more than I asked for, right, and letting me keep my money. And she said, "Yo, I just love you." And she was intoxicated, right?
Yeah.
But she spoke her heart. And I realize now that even though I was, like, selling drugs to my people, which is not a good thing at all, it wasn't for me. It wasn't about, like, now I look back, it wasn't about drugs. It was about being in community. I love, still to this day, just communicating with people, talking to people, hearing stories, sharing stories, listening to stories. I love that. And I would do that all day if I could. And even then, that's who I was.
Yeah.
So it was a thing to make money, but that wasn't really the thing. It was just like, because I needed to make money, and like, I'm in the hood, and that's what we do, right? When there's no other options. But it was deeper than that for me. It was just talking to people, being in community. And so, like, that's the story, right? That's the story of coming, like, the same thing, because it's always been love, but it was misguided or misdirected, misinterpreted. To now is like I can fully express it. And like, man, I've been through everything, man. I've uh been to prison. Did 3 years in prison for a shooting. I've been shot. I got shot
Wow.
3 times.
What was that? If Can you talk about that, or
Yeah,
yeah?
of course. What do you want to know?
So what were the circumstances surrounding the shooting?
um, of me being shot or going to prison? Two separate situations.
Both.
So me being shot, it come from like just being in the streets, gambling, um, you know, people don't take their money lightly in the streets, you know.
Yeah.
So we got something that's called ass betting. Ass betting is when like you make a bet and you don't have the money to pay. So
Mhm.
someone ass bet me, and then we got into an argument, and I was 19, they were 28, so they like try to use their voice, like, yo, I'm such and such, and you know, I'm older, you don't know who I am. Like, I ain't got the money, and I don't got to give you the money. It was like, yeah, all right, whatever, f you, you know, I want enough money from you, right? But that created a rift between me and that brother, you know. And a couple of months later, the same thing he did to me, I did to him. Like, I made a bet that I couldn't pay. I made it for a bigger amount, you know. So we got into a fight, and like literally like an hour and a half later, June 2nd, 2003, never forget the day, 9:30 a.m., sitting on the bench in front of my mother's building. He came out the building behind me and shot me. Sitting with my friends and everything. Like, we sitting outside smoking weed, and he came out the building and shot me. Boom, boom, boom.
Wow.
And like, craziest experience, you know, because like he could have killed me. Because when I noticed him, I didn't notice him until he was in my face with the gun, right? Like in my face, like, and I made eye contact with him, and I saw death in his eyes. But spirit happened in such a way where he lowered the gun and shot me in my legs and ran away. You know, but for a year, we had beef now, right? Because like he didn't run away, like, and like leave it alone. He still wanted his money, and I still wasn't giving him his money. Now it was even more because like you shot me. So now I'm carrying a gun, and I'm wearing a bulletproof vest. And it's that battle, like seeing each other and like should we shoot now or should we shoot later? That mentality. And then separately, I ended up trying to shoot some other people, with landing me in prison, and then he got killed, you know. And I remember vividly, like, this is when I knew I was transforming. My life was changing because I was on the phone with my sister, and she told me, you know, such and such got killed. And my first reaction, brother, like, honestly, I was happy. I was like, good for him. He shot me. He got what he deserved. But maybe 3, 4 days later, I think three specifically, Spirit spoke and said, "That's still your brother,
Yeah.
still another black man." And I know you were harmed by his actions, but y'all were both victims of the same struggle,
Mm.
right? And that's when I knew my life was changing, when I included him in my meditation and in my prayers. You know,
Yeah.
hoping that his spirit finds peace. You know, hoping that his mother, who lost her firstborn child, finds peace in some way. You know, and like I get emotional thinking about it because that's not what we're taught in the hood. You know, the person dies, they did something to you, you just F them. But it's deeper than that. It's not about what they did. It's about, again, finding the reason. And
Yeah.
we were both victims, literally, of the same struggle, growing up in the hood with this idea that you had to be like this. You know, you had to do this thing to be a hood dude and to be a man. Um, and so yeah, so that was, you know, the circumstance of me being shot. I tried to shoot some people, uh, being drunk, being depressed, not dealing with my emotions, drinking too much liquor in a small situation. I blew up into something bigger, you know, just from literally not breathing. I wasn't
Yeah.
breathing, right? I was literally holding my breath and just exploding, just living without truly, I was existing without living. I wasn't breathing. I wasn't processing my thoughts and feelings in a healthy way, you
Yeah.
know. But I've been home since 2007. We completely transformed my life, man, and I'm changing the same community that I grew up in, that I committed crime in. And even more specifically, the same bench that I got shot on, now I sit there and have interviews and have meetings and play with my children and sell books and, you know,
That's great.
so like,
And let's talk a little bit about the because obviously you growing up losing your you've had a lot of traumatic experiences, it sounds like.
mhm.
And so how did you deal with how did you recognize that there was trauma there, and what did you do to sort of process those emotions and kind of deal with all that was there?
So at the time, I had no idea it was trauma, right? And being in language and reading, like, I understood. I heard the word trauma, but I heard it in terms of trauma unit, hospital. You know, something tragic like somebody being shot or a stab wound or like having a baby or somebody falling is traumatic. I didn't connect the fact that seeing someone get killed, right? Or hearing gunshots or like losing a parent. Like I didn't understand like that connection of trauma. Um and so again, like literally like by the grace of life, being young, getting in trouble, especially after my dad transitioned and my older sister transitioned. I'm in middle school and like I'm reckless. And my mother put me on punishment, and it was times when a month, 2 months, 3 months, I could go to school, come home, and I'm staying in my room, play the game and stuff like that, but I can't go outside. And through that, um, that's where meditation, right? Like sitting by myself, and processing, like literally asking the question of why. Always asking why. Why did my dad pass? Why do these people say he's with God? What is why, what, who, how, where, right? Like asking those questions to myself. Um, and then just like again, like not fully being aware of the process, but asking a question and then realizing that as I experienced more, how then those answers to those questions like became relevant. It came to me and then became relevant, made sense. You know, and so like I mean that's the like I mean, that was recognizing the trauma, right? Like not knowing what it was and just experiencing it and knowing that it was impeding my progress and like I need to process this without knowing, like consciously knowing, but like I don't like this feeling
Yeah.
of being in my room and thinking about death and thinking about so I need to like move through it somehow. And so literally like just breathing, like in my room, because I'm thinking these crazy thoughts and I don't want to think these crazy thoughts. So just breathing and like that was it.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's such a beautiful tool, probably better than any therapy we have is right under our nose.
Literally.
Yeah.
And even going, see, everything is divine. You mentioning that. Even the nose, right? So we have the Great Sphinx, right, in Giza, and they say you shot the nose off. Why they shoot the nose off? Right? Every again is to my knowledge is all very purposeful. Um, and so we say they shot the nose off, and then we go completely separate and say Eskimos, right? Eskimos, and they have the Eskimo kiss, the nose kiss. Why? It's because to tap nose to nose and to breathe in harmony is to truly be in one unison with the person, right? And so we shot the nose off. I think because the breath is life. Breath is life, and so to shoot the nose off is to, in essence, stop life. Because if you're not breathing properly, then are you truly living? You could be existing, but there is a difference.
Mm.
You know, and so, right, I said that to say, like, literally, like, the solutions to many of our problems, whether it's health, whether it's financial, whether it's whatever, is we find the solutions and we get in tuned with the solutions and on a path simply through breathing. So,
Yeah.
right under our nose.
Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful story. And going back to, so you talked about, some of we talked about some of the things you've went through growing up and also getting shot. And then the person who shot you eventually later on, getting shot and dying, and how you felt this compassion towards this person and this recognition that you both were kind of like the product of your environment. This is what you learn. This is part of the conditioning that you had being where you were and given what you were given. And you talked about being in prison, but you also mentioned earlier on, sort of, if I heard you correctly, kind of being in prison in your own mind.
Mm.
And so, how was that like? When did you kind of wake up to these things? When did you realize what was going on, or realize your conditioning that was taking place?
Um, I mean, I subconsciously knew it from young, right? Not being able to express it, but I knew it. But ironically, is I became free in prison, right? Um, because it was in prison when now I'm not able to make the phone calls freely as I was able to, right? Because now you can make calls, but on Rikers Island, it's like you got to have money in your account, right? And there's only a certain amount of calls you can use, like a day, free calls, and then sometimes you can't use the phone, period, right? Shut down or whatever. In upstate prison, state prison, it's only collect calls. So you can have all the money in the world, but if the person you calling don't accept collect calls, then you ain't calling nobody. So you got to write letters, right? Get back to writing and talking. We can talk freely without thinking, right? Talking is people talk all the time and say nothing, right? But writing a letter to your mother is different than talking to your mother. Writing a letter to a girl is different than speaking to the girl. And so it was through writing letters that I remembered first my love of writing and my gift in writing, being able to express what I was feeling in my surroundings, um, like so beautifully, through the words. Um, it was that I was able to get back into my thoughts, like get in touch with who I was, and I became free. And it wasn't becoming free in prison that I realized that even though I was free prior to going to prison, I wasn't free mentally and emotionally. Because my brain only I had again, so I had the thought, like a distant thought of one day I want to open up a business, one day I want to write these books and make movies and travel. But I was confined to the 6 block radius and just the hood life because it was not just all I knew, because it wasn't all I knew, but it was so much trauma, pain attached to it. And sometimes, um, regardless of how a person may feel, comfortability is more important, right, than safety. And so sometimes we go back where we're comfortable at, even if it's traumatic and dangerous.
Yeah.
We stay there
Yeah.
as opposed to leaving. And so why do women stay in relationships where they're being beat? Because it's comfortable. They know the person. They know what to expect. Going somewhere else, they may not know. Like if I'm gonna eat, I know this person may hit me, but they're gonna feed me. Over here, I don't know what might happen. And so we get comfortable and we get complacent and we stay there. And so it was in prison, becoming free through my love of writing and through talking to other brothers who were there as well, that I realized that I was free in the streets before I went to prison. And before I went to prison, I had the most money I ever had in my life, cash. Um, I was able to do anything I wanted to do. But what did I want to do? Stay on the block, drink liquor all day, and do nothing. So I wasn't free.
Yeah.
So like
That's a good point to make, and I think it's worth taking a moment to talk a little bit about that because it's the brain seeks certainty. That's just how the neuroscientist Bulotto talks a lot about this. The brain wants to know what's going to happen next as a way to survive. So it's not discerning what is that this situation that you're in, although it's comfortable, it is not good for you.
mm,
So the brain is not making that discernment. It's just saying, okay, i'm I'm alive,
yep,
so it's working.
yep,
Yeah.
yeah,
So it's, even if it's a bad situation, I'm alive. But it sounds like you had this kind of questioning, early on, this intuition to look within, and to whether it was fully conscious or not. It sounds like it was you were starting to go in, kind of step into those uncertainties, step into that, that out of your comfort zone, in different ways. And I think artistic expression, like writing and things like that, is a really nice way to do it, because you're not really certain. You're like you write poetry, and as you were talking about sitting, in your community and having poetry night, and you don't know what's going to
nope.
come up next. So and part of being, children do this perfectly. It's called play.
Yeah,
They're not certain. They're just going along, stumbling along, and enjoying it. And I think that's one of the God-given gifts that we have,
Mhm.
to be with uncertainty that we kind of lose along the way. So it's just really, I'm kind of seeing that in your journey, that you're finding all of these resources, that are within yourself. So
Yo, you hear me? I think I was raised to like, some people are raised to like stay away from the fire and stay away from what's uncertain in the darkness. I was raised to go towards it,
yeah,
like go towards the fire, go towards the uncertainty, because especially if what you are currently experiencing, what you're certain of, doesn't feel good, then like go towards the uncertainty. Because like, what could hurt? How much damage could it be? Either it'll kill you, right? And then if you really don't want to be here, then you good because you're not here.
yeah,
Or it'll make you greater. And if you didn't want to be here now, you're grateful that you're still here. And if you wanted to be here now, you got the solution that you was looking for. So
that's
like,
great.
right, like move towards, lean into the uncertainty. But so now that's tough, right? So now through meditation, through proper breathing, we learn to trust the process. We learn and remember that we are one with the divine. We are one with God. We are one with the universe, not separate. And so no matter what happens, it happens not to us, but for us, because we're one. So is the universe going to harm itself? Is God going to harm itself? No, right? So even the things that seem harmful and painful and shouldn't happen is part of the process. And so I always knew that. I always knew like, and again, without being able to say like trust the process, I knew that even when I was getting in trouble, even many times I sat in a cell on Rikers Island, or I sat in Queens bookings and wherever, I knew that like, okay, like this is part of my journey. Like for whatever reason, like, all right, I'm here. I don't want to be here, but I'm here for a reason. And like I need to figure it out. And now I know that like, because now, and humbly, from 2011 to 2014, I was part of a alternative to incarceration program in Queens with
Yeah,
Misunderstood Youth Development Center, and the district attorney, Richard Brown, had created it, and I don't think he created anything good other than that. He
yeah,
was horrible DA, the worst DA probably in America, but he created that program. Or he funded it. He didn't create it, but he funded that program and like allowed it, to work. And what we did was we took 14 to 19-year-olds, 20-year-olds who had I think first felony, low level assault, I think C or D assault, um, um, and if their lawyer asks for it, like so the return to incarceration, they can come to our program for 18 months. Normally it could be 6 months, but normally 6 months to 18 months. And go back to school, complete certain requirements about personal growth, development. What do building a future strategy, like what are you going to do with work when you finish with the situation. And if they complete it and graduated successfully, they were able to get their criminal record sealed and dismissed. You know what I mean? And so like then the program will write letters and stuff like that on their behalf to help them move forward in life. But this program, ironically, was at the Queens Criminal Courthouse, which where I had got arrested plenty of times. And so like, so now why did I get arrested? Why did I go through all the stuff? Because life needed me there. Because there was nobody like me from the hood who was coming to that program. There were black people from the hood, there were black men from the hood, but there weren't black men with the same lived experience as these young black men. Right? There were black men who maybe like smoke some weed, and so their friends get arrested, but they never got into the streets. So like they're coming from a different perspective. But me, I was like, y'all knee deep in the streets, right? Like where we teaching at, where we doing this class at, I had handcuffs on downstairs, same place y'all had handcuffs on downstairs. Right? So like just being able to intimately relate to the young people from the hood. And then yeah, so like, you know?
yeah. That's good to recognize that, all of the pain and the circumstances that you went through in life or ended up being of service in some way. So it's how everything is beautifully orchestrated.
Yes.
There are no accidents. And I just gotta take a quick moment just to acknowledge some of our viewers. Welcome, Jocelyn, Kathleen, Elizabeth, Flame. Good morning, Karen, Abbas, and Abbas says
Oh,
top of the. Was it?
Abasa Sali, that's my brother.
Yes,
That was
yes.
good.
Yeah, he says top of the top. Karen says, yes, every journey will lead to our destination. Good morning, my brother Leighton. And Karen also said, yes, I remember that program. I had a program that assists these kids. So that's great.
Yes.
So welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining. Yeah, so let's, it's Afari has joined too. Fari Yanda
Yes.
says good morning.
Good morning.
And, so how does, sometimes some people may have some very painful experiences, and you could go, two ways. You can use that to go further down a sort of path of destruction, and understandably so, or you can use it to your benefit. And so how has pain been a motivator in your life?
I mean, one of the mantras that we have in the hood, and is misused a lot, because it's used and propagated to like to administer more pain. But the cliche, like what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, right? It's such a cliche, and I didn't like cliches for a long time, but I had to get out of myself and say like, okay, because I've heard it attached to this, because people would say, your parents would yell at you, scream at you, beat you with a belt, and you cry like, it ain't kill you, what don't kill you make you stronger, boy. And it's like in that way, like it's like, come on, like I feel like I'm dead, but more seriously, it's like, okay, I experienced this pain, it will never be the same again. Same thing doing a push-up. The first push-up you do, it hurts like crazy, but you will never feel that same pain again from the first push-up, right? So for me, knowing that, fully understanding that pain is and again, it's so cliche, no pain, no gain, right? You work out, no pain, no gain, no pain, no gain, more pain, more pain. And so like separately, you process, right? You put it with, okay, it's not the hurt that's good, the emotional hurt, not that it's good, but that if you survived it, it can only have taught you a lesson. It should have taught you a lesson. A lot of times, because we're not breathing, we're not getting a lesson. We're missing it. So we keep repeating the same cycle. Right?
Yeah.
But I mean, pain leads to power. You know, I know for me, the most painful moment of my life was when my mom told me my dad passed, right? But that has become over the years, that was 25 years ago, more specifically the last 3, 4, 5 years, that's been probably my greatest source of power is sharing that story. And like so we was able to transform pain to power. And so like I mean, just knowing that, just and again being conscious of young guys. I spoke about my dad, how I connected with more people and just learning, just being aware. I'm learning on the fly. Um and then just through study as well, right? Through studying psychology and philosophy and sociology and understanding human behavior and storytelling, right? And just putting it all together, weaving it all together and saying like, yeah, this thing caused me pain. Um, do I want to stay there or do I want to move through it? Right? Like, do I want to continue to experience in the pain? Do I want to suffer? Because pain is real. Suffering, I learned through Buddhism, is a choice. Right? We and as much as people say, well, I'm not choosing to suffer, we are. We're choosing to suffer the moment we continue to hold the thoughts in our mind that lead to the suffering.
Yeah.
You don't control what thoughts come, you control what thoughts you give attention to. And so energy, people are always sending us thoughts, right? Frequency, you think about somebody, you don't know why, but we choose the ones that we hold. We choose the ones that we give life to. They say in each person is a two beasts. Which one grows? The one that you feed.
Yeah.
So we feed our own sorrow because unfortunately a lot of us don't experience true love, and we think our pity, right? Because we get attention. We like babies. There's no difference. Adults get upset at the children for throwing a temper tantrum because they want attention, but adults, we do it all the time. We talk about our problems. We talk about all the stuff that's wrong in the world, so people can listen to us and say, "Oh man, I feel so bad. You're right. That's so messed up." We want attention, and there's nothing wrong with that. How does the flower grow? The flower grows through proper attention. So we
Yeah.
all need attention, proper attention. However, is what do you want the attention for? Do you want the attention to help you stay where you at in the pain and the sorrow and the misery? And that's where most of the world has been stuck,
Mm,
right?
yeah.
But what I'm trying to do and what we're doing is that you can get attention moving away from that and sharing love. That's the most attention. It may not, because in the hood especially, or just in life, people don't may not love themselves, so they don't know how to love another, right? So again, comfortable in the pain because it's pity, right? And like, what do people love more than successful people? They love people who are in misery, so they could be like, that person is messed up, so they can point a finger. People like pointing fingers, whether they say, oh, look at that celebrity, they did a great job, right? Or look at that person, they messed up in life. And so we say, yo, I don't want this. I don't want this attention no more because it's not conducive to my growth. What do I want in life? I want to be happy. I want to live in peace. I want X, Y, and Z. So we learn to move away from that. And like, the pain is real, but let's take it from pain and suffering to pain and glory,
Yeah.
right? Because there's two separate things. The same pain, you can stay in suffering, or you can use it to get to glory. And how do we get there? Through proper breathing and meditation.
Beautiful. Yeah, bringing it back to that. You just encapsulated so many different things uh, on that topic of how do we use our pain for our benefit. And one of the things that you said, which I thought was a beautiful analogy, is we all need attention. There's a few things you said that the pain, you can sort of transform that pain when you breathe. So I was bringing it back to the meditation piece. And so the breathe in helps us to, I think, come into the present moment and see through. You talked about the mind and not going what the thoughts tell you. So when we're having proper breathing and we can tap into presence, then we can come below the conceptual layer, that we have there, all of the judgments and ideas that we have about the pain. It's rather than what is really there, what's beneath the pain. What is it actually? And
Mhm.
like you said before, as a child, we're looking within, and one of the best tools that you have to learn from is yourself. Like you said, if there are no books, what would I have is myself. So to be able to see what's there and to question, then we have the chance to learn, and then we're most likely out of that sort of reaction mode,
Yep.
that sort of knee-jerk reaction, where a lot of people, when we have difficult emotions, we get into the distracting ourselves, and we
Yep.
can distract ourselves through drugs and alcohol. One of the more subtle ways we can distract ourselves is through blaming this person, this politician, that person, blaming everybody else or blaming ourselves,
Yep.
and then we don't really see all of these are tactics to not be with the difficult emotions, because we just don't know how to be with it, really. And then the other thing you said that I really love is the analogy of the flower that needs the attention, so it needs the sun, and we can bring that back to the consciousness. Is I look at the sun, you can look at the sun as consciousness as well,
Mhm.
the light of this pure awareness. And in some ways, that's another way to deal with that pain, is
Mm.
directing, being that sort of vessel of consciousness to the pain, to whatever is there, to nourish it, to give it that attention. And so I just wanted to reflect those things that you brought up. Also, I want to say, just acknowledge a few more people. Farianda says, yep, we have to choose daily. And she just reminded me
Mm.
of something I wanted to say as well, because I woke up the other day, I think it was today or yesterday, and And the thought was going to go into, and I'm so glad you brought it up because it just confirms, what was going on within me. The thought was going to go in a certain direction, and then I just stopped and I said, "Do I want to create that again?
Mm,
I know where that leads. Do I want to create that world again and then become a victim of it?
mm.
Get into that, oh, this always happens." And you like put it like really well, we have that choice. We can either, so we're not a victim, we're creating this
Creating,
world. Yeah.
absolutely. Regardless of how we feel, we are actively co-creators in our reality. And so something I like to say is like I love when I see people who are actively in pursuit of their own destiny, right? Like we are creating this thing, us and the elements that be in nature that are divine, that are outside of us, that we have no control over. However, the attention that we give and the intention that we have, right, works with that energy or against it to bring us closer to the reality that we desire or further away from it. It is that simple. Simply, simpler terms, choose happiness,
Yeah.
choose
Yeah.
joy, choose peace, choose love, right? Because we can choose, right? Someone takes $5 from me, right? I can choose to be upset and be like, oh, and call them names and they're a thief, or I can choose compassion and understanding. That person needed it, and then ask the question, why would they do something like this? Especially if you think you're a good person and say you don't deserve it. Don't say I don't deserve it, and that person then deserves punishment because you didn't deserve it, and so you were punished. And now you want to punish? No, I was punished. I lost something that was good to me. I don't like how it feels, so let me have compassion, more love, more patience. You know,
Yeah, it's beautiful. And I think that like as I think we're in a time of transitioning out of this old way of being, of power and fear
mm,
being the dominate, and polarity being the dominant way of being. And my hope and my feeling is that we're transitioning to a compassion and cooperation and love being the guiding force. And I think this may be a good time to transition to community service.
yes.
We talked a lot about a lot of beautiful things, and I think it all kind of ties
Yeah.
in some way. But when I think of community service, you come to mind because I always see you doing things for your community, and you're really, in the street, being there hands on. And well, with COVID, it might not be well, as much so, but
Yeah.
you're there, you're present, you're there with people, feeding people and doing things like that. So, and we started this conversation before the interview started. You talking about having a poetry night, which I thought was such a beautiful
Yes.
idea. So let's maybe we could talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, so again, like you said, so it's all divine, right? It is all connected. And so like I said, community service is service of self, you know. So a lot of times, we like, people say the term giving back. And I understand it, but I don't give back because I got nothing to give but love. So I'm giving in, all right? I'm lifting up, right? People, because when you say give back, a lot of people think that like it's intrinsically attached to success, which is mainly material. And so I gotta wait until I get this so I can give back. No, 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 no. You don't gotta have nothing to love and to build. You don't gotta have anything. You don't need no money, right? All you need is the desire and the will and intention, right, to build community and to serve community, right? Because you don't need no money to serve yourself. You don't need no money to serve anyone else. So I like to move away from the term, which is why I like community service, away from the term like giving back and stuff like that. Because like personally, I really don't have much to give. I got wisdom, I got knowledge, I got experience, but materially I don't. And this is a we attach that like, oh, I can't serve my community unless I'm good. And it's like the fact that you are alive means you are good. So you have something to offer another person. And that's what it's about. It's an offering. We make offerings to each other, holding each other in reverence, right? So that's community service, is understanding that, number one, we are all in community, whether we like it or not, right? Like, it's not about public or personal feeling, as well as community mean. Shared language, shared experience, shared culture, history, and or geographic location. So I live in Queensbridge. That is my geographic, physical community. But I'm a black man. That's a separate community. I'm a father. That's a different community. So we are always in community, right? Communing in unity. Whether we are doing it unified or not, it is happening, right? So we say, okay, so now, and actually, I've humbly and carefully, I've done more since COVID than I did prior, because the community needs it, right? Like, people are hungry. Like, yeah, we need to figure out how to get the people some food, and not just any food, but healthier food. Because for COVID, and I get people talking about the mask, but you could wear a lot. I know a lot of people who passed in this last 6 months, bro. Like, last 8 months, man. I know, and I stopped counting at like 35. And people who passed just last week, the last 2 weeks, right? Friends, parents passed and stuff like that. So maybe in the 40s, close to 50 people I know that passed just in the last 8 months. Um, a lot of them, they wore the mask and they stayed in their house. They passed. Why? We say pre-existing conditions. The pre-existing conditions, they ain't come from the sky, right? They didn't just miraculously appear in people. They were cultivated and created through diet, mainly through what we eat, the foods we put into our bodies, and so, as thought about COVID, and I thought about all of these things, I thought about people being hungry, and I saw, people giving the food boxes and all of this stuff, and I said, all right, like, that's good, but now we need to go further. So now we need to give people healthier food options. So now, for the last 6 months, we've been doing vegan food. We've been offering free vegan food in Queensbridge. And that's just thanks to people who care. Frontline Foods. That's one of the foundations that works with the restaurants, that pays the restaurants, right? Because it was also created, like, yo, we got these restaurants, our neighbors who are like, the restaurants are not open, they losing money, they closing down. So what can we do as a community to support them and support ourselves? So we can pull some money together, those who have it, right? Pay the restaurant a price so that they can then, like, magnify it to make food to give out for the community. And so it's been a beautiful, like, synchronized thing that happened, and it happened organically, right? But going back, so poetry, we do poetry on Saturdays, and that started, it was a Wednesday just 2 months ago. I think the last Wednesday of September, we did a, yeah, I think that was September 30th. There was a poetry event happening in Brooklyn, and I had partnered with Abolition Library Commons, one of the groups that came out of the stuff that was happening down in City Hall, right? After George Floyd's murder, you know. So I partnered with them, and one of the guys who they work with, name is Eddie Connor. He goes by Eddie Kruger from Houston. He's an amazing artist, lyricist. He's amazing. One of the most brilliant artists I've ever had the pleasure of, like, witnessing and, like, being around, being in community with. So the poetry event was happening in Brooklyn, but Eddie wanted to come because he had started coming to Queensbridge. He wanted to come to Queensbridge and do his part live. And so we said, okay, let's so we set up the projector so that people can watch the poets that were in Brooklyn. And then we had some chairs and some food. And then Eddie did the poetry. I mean, he did freestyle, right? And I did some poetry. And it was great. It was a Wednesday afternoon, but it wasn't a real big turnout, right? A couple people came and stopped, and we said, we need to do this again. And so one of the ladies with Abolition Library Commons said, well, when? I said, I mean, if we want a great turnout and true impact, like, we got to do it at night in Queensbridge, right? When people are already outside, hanging out, and the energy has been, it was a lot of shootings prior, a lot of stuff going on in Queensbridge. But I said, we got to do it outside. We got to do it on a Saturday night, right? Like, everything is energy. So, like, we got to tap into that energy that's there on Saturday night that leads people to, myself included, because when I caught my case that led me to prison, it was a Saturday night and I was drinking. So people drink in the hood Saturday night, nothing to do Sunday, and sometimes, crime happens and people get hurt. So I said we need to change the narrative of what it means to be outside in the hood on a Saturday. And so you can still have drinks, right? You can still smoke your stuff, your weed, or but it's in spirit of peace and community and love.
Yeah.
People sharing poetry and stories and reflections. So we've been doing that now 6 weeks. Just that poetry just started. The first one we did was October 3rd. You know, we've been doing it every Saturday since. The last 2 Saturdays was freezing cold, right? But we still was out there, you
Yeah.
know. And thankfully, yesterday was a beautiful day. Next Saturday will be a beautiful day. And we have cash prize. We give $100 first place, $50 second place, $25 third place. Yesterday, we had a food sponsor, Urban Vegan Kitchen, sponsored some vegan food, and they gave a gift card to their restaurant. You know, so like that's community, right? Like last week we had a chef made food for last week, made vegan tacos, right? The week before that we had a different, like, you know, we had a different chef. So like, it's truly community. You know, on Saturdays in the evening, in a space that the cops are occupying like crazy. Like even last night, the cop car sitting there with the lights flashing. You know, so the police presence is there, like terrorizing us. But we're focused on the goal. We're focused on the mission, and we're creating a community of peace. Um, in spite of whatever you know energies want to impede that process.
That's beautiful. And what would you say? How's the response from the community at the with the community service that you do? And also, would you say that there's more of a sense of community from when you were growing up, where maybe when you were younger, maybe less people were on their devices. Everybody's on cell phone and kind of behind screens and stuff. Do you feel like it's less hands-on now, less like face to face? And taking in consideration COVID, of course. But do you feel like there's more people to people contact or less? And how does that affect the community service in general and that sense of community?
So first, the response from the community, you know, the work that we've been doing. I mean, it's love. Like love begets love. You know, so like we don't need to get energy. Like, yeah, there are people who don't know love, who see it and think it's something else, and like, you know, talk, but we don't give that no energy. Love begets love, and so like it's an overwhelmingly beautiful response from my community, man. Like being able to connect with young people, and like you know, Eddie, the guy I mentioned, like he rides a skateboard. He bought a skateboard one day to Queensbridge for this poetry night, and I didn't even know my own son was interested in riding a skateboard, and he was on a skateboard. I was like, oh snap! And other children came out of nowhere and was riding a skateboard and said, yo, we want a skateboard. And so now we're fundraising to like get skateboards for the children in Queensbridge. Right? Like, um, but the response has been like, it's been truly beautiful. You asked, I want to answer your question specifically. What was the question again? It was, how do,
Do you feel like since growing up,
oh yes, I got it.
yeah,
Funny thing. So a lot of people, particularly I'm 36, so my elders like to say, "Oh, yeah, young people always on your devices, always on your devices." And I remember growing up, the elders were always in the newspaper, right? Always a newspaper, right? And so like something, so like let's stop blaming, right? We blame, point the finger, say this is what's wrong. So it's give and take. It's more interaction, but it's less, right? It's less and more, it's more and less is because people are communicating more, right? They say, oh, these young people know how to communicate. They're having 7 conversations at the same time, right? So
that's
like
true.
it's real. So yes, it's different. It's different, right? And again, more or less is public as personal perception. So my personal perception, I think there's more community now, right, than it was when I was growing up. Yes, there's more technology, right? Um, there's there may be less even in the community, maybe less emotional investment, right? Because like you got technology, you on to the next conversation. So in that way, it's like it's maybe less. what's the word, like less investment, right? Less
Yeah, yeah.
investment in the relationship, which is like, damn, that's okay, that's not that great, right? Because like one argument, you done with a person. It's like, yo, whoa, what about talking about it, working through it, and moving on? Not just we had an argument, disagreement, and I don't gotta talk to you no more because I got access to 30,000 other people.
Yeah, you just
Right?
block.
You just block. No more talking about like, yo, I don't like what you said. Why'd you say that? It's like, all right, I don't like it. Block you, right? So that in that way is less. Um, but the fact that people have access to more people around the world, the fact that like I'm able to talk to a brother in Gambia about doing some work between what they're doing over there and what I'm doing over here, right? That's more community, you
Yeah.
know. So it's just, you know,
So
it's one of those fine lines. It's up and down. Some days is like this, some days is like this, and we got to figure out how to get it like this, how to
yeah,
bring the balance, right?
yeah.
Because the world is not going backwards. So we a lot of when we talk about this a lot of times is I wish it was how it was back in the day. Well, it ain't gonna be like that. So get out of that wishing. Wish on a star, it doesn't change anything. How do we deal with what is and make it the best? Right. So yes, we need more children outside playing. Absolutely. Right. The children are so many children are extremely unhealthy right now. 6, 7, 8 years old and obese and on the phone. So absolutely we need more play. But how can we learn about proper diet? Before you had to go to the library. You had to if you want to learn something in another language, it was tough. Now you can pull up the app on the phone. So
Yeah.
redirecting it, like giving direction. That's what it is. So those of us who are aware of how to use these tools, cell phone technology, to educate and empower people, particularly young people, let them use it for empowerment, then it could be a great thing. I think a lot of the problem is with parents and adults, we are lazy. And so we don't want to take the time to build with our children on their devices. And so we're like, oh, they just want to be on the phone all day. But what are you doing? Are you reading a book too? You're telling them to read a book, but are you reading a book? Physical book, or are you on your phone as well? And so it's a crazy dichotomy that we created, brother.
Yeah, no, I know firsthand with my kids. So sometimes I'm telling them to get off the phone, and I have the phone in my hand and the earbuds in my ear, and then I just feel like a hypocrite,
Yep.
you know. So I do try to say, okay, let's all get off the phone. I'll put
Yes.
mine away,
Yep.
you put yours away. I
Yep.
just wanted to acknowledge some more people. Cecilia, my good friend Cecilia,
Hey, sis.
Waterman Santiago.
What's
Yeah.
good? I know. Yes.
Oh, you know Cecilia too?
Yes. Yes.
Oh, good. I just want to say hello. Also, Fari Yanda says, you have a lot to give. The tangibles change depends on your situation, but that part that gives comes in different ways.
Mm,
Yes, yes, it does. And Farianda also says compassion is what pushes the community service.
mm. Yep.
Okay. And she also says inform,
My sis.
transform, and create your own norm. I like that one.
Yes.
I'm going to
Yes.
steal that one. I'll give you credit.
Nice.
Yeah. So let's see where to now. Is there anything that we didn't talk about that you felt
Um.
like you
I
want to give
mean.
some attention to?
I mean, just. I mean, we're doing a lot, man, in Queensbridge. You know. And I want to because it's not about what we're doing in Queensbridge, right? I want to. So we're doing. We are doing a lot, and it is a great thing. But what I want people to take away is that you can do it anywhere, right? Like people, I love what you're doing in Queensbridge. How can just do it? Is literally. So I know that we have this thing where we have ideas and people don't want to share ideas because they're like, yo, somebody might steal my idea, right? And it's like number one, your idea ain't original, right? Your idea was inspired by something else, right? So how I'm able or how we're able to like do this stuff because I just have ideas and I share them. Like I literally just share my ideas freely. I want to do this, and it'll be dope if we do this. And sometimes the idea is to share with somebody who also wants to do it. You're like, okay, bet I'm gonna put my energy to it too, and then because there's nothing to it but to do it, right? We've been hearing that forever, like, and so like we're just tapping into that God gene in your mind. Like when you think it, you can manifest it. You know, and I want people to really know that Queensbridge is not different than any other neighborhood. I'm not different, right? I'm not more special than anybody, right? I'm just aware of my thoughts, ideas, and what I want to see manifest, and I'm gonna put my energy into it. I'm not gonna say I can't do it because There's a lot of stuff I want to do right now that is challenging to do because of certain barriers, but I'm figuring out how can I do it then. Not I can't do it because I can't afford it. How can I afford to take 1,000 young people to Africa? That's what I'm actively trying to figure out. Not, oh, I can't do it. It's too much money. It's too much. No, no, no. I need to do it. I want to do it. So how can I do it? Different vibration, right? Um, and so like so many things that happen, and that's like, okay, boom, it's pieces to a puzzle, right? Like, so my brand Transform America. It's literally like a transformer. You take this piece, take that piece, you move that out, you get that out, right? And you put it together. You put the puzzle together. We create the world that we desire to live in. We create the life that we desire to have. And I want people to like really know that like we like to relinquish our I'm not in control, I'm not in control. Yeah, we're not in control of how fast the bus is moving, right? We're not in control of how much, there's a lot that we're not in control of. However, we are in full control over the thoughts that we harbor. We are in full control over where we put our energy and attention. Therefore, in essence, we may not be able to control how fast the bus is moving, but we can control whether we're there on time or not, right? And even more so, if we got a problem with that bus service, we can make our own bus service. We can build a bus. We can literally make a bus, create an organization that provides transportation, and so now you be in control of how fast or slow the bus moves. So like, and I want people to really like grasp that. Like, we are so much more powerful than we give ourselves credit for. Any reality that we want to see in this realm, we can create it, and it doesn't have to be in 100 years. It can be now. It can be now. Build your life, build your community, and like just connect, keep connecting. So that's like
Yeah,
because from there, now you'll know your direction of what service looks like to you.
yeah, and it sounds like it's in, bringing it back to knowing yourself and meditation. It also sounds like, we don't have to wait, because it could feel overwhelming. Well, the little bit that I'm doing, this piece of the puzzle, but the whole puzzle is still, not where we want it to be, and there could be this feeling of, well, what good is it going to be? I don't see the fruits of my labor, on a collective, global scale, maybe. But it sounds like what you do, and part of why you do it is it brings you joy, as well. And just that, just being in your joy, and you talk about, the energy, just that is of great service. So it's almost not as much about the outcome, but it's,
Oh, the
the
journey.
being. Yeah,
Yes. It's not about the destination. The joy is in the journey.
yeah,
It's not about, like you said, it's not about the outcome. It's about just being and like being comfortable with just being. Like, don't think about the outcome. Just like be. And
yeah.
like in being, that is creating, right? The steps. And so you'll get to where you want like that.
Yeah, and it's such a good service. I know in Sufism and in other paths, feeding people,
Mm.
is like such a direct and great service, because if someone is, it's hard to be spiritual when you have an empty stomach, when you're hungry, and we can talk about, being spiritual and meditation and all this, but when you're hungry, when there's people that don't have food to eat, when you're living in poverty and you don't have your basic needs met, that's a luxury, in certain places and for certain people. So in this sense of community and acknowledging that we are in this together, to one idea is, in order to expand this consciousness, part of it is taking care of, other people, so that they do not feel so overwhelmed, and so they do so they can take a few minutes, after they eat, to do some sort of spiritual practice to be in a better place to look within, because it's only going to benefit, everyone,
Yep.
everyone as a whole.
Yes, sir.
So let's see. So is there anything else that we're about an hour and 15 minutes in? So I think
Um, I mean, just like uh, support this work, right? Support this work that we're doing in Queensbridge with Transform America. Got big, 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 big objectives, man. Like big, big, big goals. Things that we're working on, things that we're already doing. Want to expand it. Like we want to, like I want to feed people vegan food like every day, right? Like breakfast, lunch, and dinner, right? And so like to do that, clearly it's money, right? Money to buy the food, right? Money to give some people some money to like for their service, preparing food and transporting food. Um, like even like I know that it's COVID, but like people still got to eat, so like we got to provide a space. Like example, like there's a building in the story of houses with no heat right now, right? That the city says maybe 2 more months. I mean, they don't have, I mean, not no heat. Sorry, no cooking gas. They're not able to make food on their stoves, right? So they get a hot plate. And so like that's something that has happened before. It will most likely happen again, especially during this winter, especially COVID. Like the city is like taking over. They're like, yo, y'all gotta figure it out yourself. Like we all, and it's like I get it, but like somebody got to be there, right, to serve and to ensure that people have food and so that people's basic needs are met. And so like we want to do this every day, right? Like make sure people have food. Um, we got like from the ground up the poetry event. We want to expand it. Want to expand it, turn it into like a reality show type thing where we're really helping artists, right? Like get resources and put them on a path to like actualizing their dreams, being able to generate income off of their talents and skills in art. We got that. Education, the Freedom Tour. We took some young people down to DC in August. We're not traveling now, but as things, in the spring, things open up again. We want to take young people from the hood of NYC, and it's not just about traveling, having fun, different experiences, but it's about particularly young Black folk understanding that their position in this country, like this is your country. This is your country. Your people built this, not just through forced labor, right, slavery, but we are the architects. We are the brains behind how this country is laid out, right? Design and infrastructure, architecture. That's us. So like, so we built this country physically, and it's like, yeah, we did, and they owe us that. But as free people, prior to like we laid this thing out, we're brilliant, and so like helping people tap into that, young people. So we're doing that. Um, we shot a film yesterday exploring what it means to be less fortunate, or the perception of someone who is perceived as less fortunate, what that means, what that looks like. We did that film yesterday as well. So like it's tons of work. It's tons of work. And is in this realm, in this paradigm, you need income to get it done. You need money to get it done. So like, I mean, if you're listening, if you're watching, and like support this work, like every dollar matters. Every dollar matters, every share matters. Like spread the good news, tell people about it. Like that's the best support is like telling somebody about something good that you are watching, experiencing, or part of. So like, and again, know that like together we rise.
yeah,
Is through community that we transform the country, our nation, and it's through our shared interests and our shared history that you know in that transformation is harmony. It's
yeah,
harmonic and is love based. And so like love yourself, man. Love your brother, love your sister. Love the neighbor, love the stranger, love the person who don't love you. Right? Love that person who doesn't love you, not because they didn't earn it, right? Because you can say, oh, they don't deserve it, but because you are love. Love because you are love. Don't base your love and your actions on what someone else does, right? They say, how someone treats you is their karma, how you respond is yours.
yeah.
So like let's always respond in love. And it's tough, it's challenging. People do things, say things, push our buttons, but that's why we gotta breathe before we respond. So that we are always being that which we desire to see.
Yeah.
Right? So
And
yeah.
so how can people support your work directly? Where can they go
Yes,
to?
the website is almost done, but I think you can go check it out now. This is the first time publicly that I'm saying you can visit the website, right? Transformamerica.net. That's Transform America, everything spelled proper way. .net. You can go there. Should be a donate button. I'm not sure if it's fully active, but you can go there see some of the work. But to contribute financially, right now PayPal, Cash App. The Cash App is Sugar Ray 4506. That's SUGA RAY 4506. And PayPal is the Sugar Ray Show at gmail.com. That's TheSugarRayShow and like literally like every dollar really counts. Like people be like, yo, it's only $5. I say $5 sometimes pays for a Metro card two
Yeah.
ways, right? For somebody to go do something. $5 sometimes. On the other day, I was buying food in a Spanish restaurant in Queensbridge, and one of the homeless guys that I know, he came, he was walking by. He said, yo, brother, can you give me something to eat? Yeah, I was able to buy something to eat, like, what I mean, $7 meal, like, 'cause they had $7,
Yeah.
so like just donations contribute to stuff like that, small and great ways. Like, so bus trips for young people, but also food right there, right? Like, also another homeless person I know, like, yo, I wear a size 10 boots. Like, you got some boots? Like, I need some boots. Can you help
Yeah.
me? Like, I try to get you some boots, brother.
It's great.
So like,
And,
it's
Can
life
you, can you repeat the PayPal? You said the Sugar Ray Show
at Gmail.
at Gmail.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I'll put links to those in the description of this
Okay.
video as well. So I have transformamerica.net, Cash App, Sugar Ray 4506,
Yep.
right? Okay. And
Thank you, man.
yeah, thank you so much. There was
Great.
something else I'm forgetting. Oh, okay. Leighton had to leave. He said, thank you so much, Sugar. Thanks always, Ade. Have a great day, everyone.
Nice.
Yeah, thank you for joining. And I'm just going to do some closing announcements. This is Guided Meditations and More. My name is Ade Richardson, and today's guest is Suga Ray. And the topic is community service, but it was a very wide, we talked about a lot of stuff. So this conversation was packed with a lot of great stuff. And as always, I learned so much from these conversations. And, Sugar, it's been a joy. You inspire, and I say that from my heart. You inspire. I appreciate the work that you do.
Thank you, brother.
And so I also offer guided meditations. There's supposed to be one today. Obviously it's not, today. This conversation replaced that, but Thursdays at 7:30 a.m. Eastern time and Sundays at 8:30 a.m. Eastern time. And also the video podcasts. I have a few podcasts coming up this week. So if you check on the page, you'll see the announcements for those. If you want to be notified about our, upcoming podcasts or meditations, if you like or follow the page, you'll get updates and notifications. If you have any comments or questions for Suga Ray, you can leave them below the video, or you can send me a direct message. And I'll also post the links that he provided if you'd like to donate or support in any way that you can. And to a really great cause. And what else am I forgetting? If you have any comments or questions for me, you can send me a direct message to my inbox. So thank you, everyone, for joining. Everyone, be safe and take care.